Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast with Wayne. I'm Patrick coming to you for the NFL playoffs. We are through the first round. If you haven't already, go check out YouTube, anywhere on our podcast audio, and check out that episode. Just want to know what our takes were. We're going to look forward tonight going over the final eight here in the tournament. We'll also go over some of our predictions for Super Bowl matchups, everything like that. So if you're with us, always subscribe, like and review after you're done, watching us, and check out our sponsors too. We are, you know, sponsored by the Sharps app as well as our friends over at Titan Nutrition. So we've got a couple offers there for you. Go check it out. Be a part of those communities. They're all related to sports and fitness. So definitely fit what we're about. And without further ado, let's go into the matchups for this divisional round here. Starting on Saturday, we have the Houston Texans going on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Man, this is quite a matchup here. I really should have listened to my gut and picked CJ Stroud and the Texans to win last game against the Browns there, but kind of went with what was on paper there. But this game against the Ravens, my beloved Ravens here. So two of my favorite teams I think that are playing right now, Texans Ravens. It's going to be a cold one there. I think it's going to be. I think the last time I checked, it was going to be like below 20 degrees, maybe even cooler there if you factor in wind chill. So definitely going to be, winter football. I think kind of happening over there. But C.J. Stroud basically had a perfect game against the Browns. I think that's the best way to put it. So had an almost perfect passer rating and decimated one of the top ranked defenses in the NFL. And he's going to be going against another top-ranked AFC North team there, having an elite defense. They've been able to get to the quarterback a bunch, so I think that'll be a test. Against Tunsil and such. I mean, that matchup with like Clowney and Benoit getting to CJ Stroud, that's going to be key because CJ Stroud was basically kept upright for most of the game. Like Myles Garrett was not a factor at all in the game. So, that should be something to keep an eye out on, especially on those, play actions that CJ Stroud just killed and decimated the Browns secondary there. So that being said, hey, let's look at the Ravens here. Mark Andrews looks like he's, possibly he's going to be returning for this game, and that can only help. That's, Lamar Jackson's favorite target there. It can definitely help out in the red zone, which, when you have a big tight end there, even with Likely, like it was hard to beat Mark Andrews as a tight end, getting those touchdowns from Lamar. So Lamar is 42% against the spread with a 3.5 more at a point spread there as a favorite. It is the Ravens by 9. It looks like here. He if it's a 7.5 though, he is 1-8. So against the spread, I am picking the Ravens here, but 9-point spread. I think the Texans will cover. Like this team has been playing really well. They just so happen to be going against the Ravens here, one of the best teams in football, and have been playing really well of late. So, I'm just gonna have to pick the Ravens. Winning by maybe a touchdown or less. But yeah, covering that 9-point spread there.
I mean, I feel like with some of these younger quarterbacks now that are proving that they can, somewhat hang, it's kind of hard to look at those spreads and, take them seriously, go with the over on most of them. I feel like a lot of these games are going to be close. Like Jordan Love, CJ Stroud came with that perfect passer rating, looked amazing out there, looked like it was just, one of his better exhibitions in the regular season. And I mean, the Browns didn't do themselves any favors. I mean, I felt like those costly picks by Joe Flacco, I mean, they were just really bad throws. I mean, one ending in a pick six, but man, those were some ugly, ugly throws. I felt like that was kind of the turning point in that game. Probably led to a lot more confidence for Stroud. I'm not sure Lamar Jackson's going to walk out there and make similar errors. I mean, I feel like their team has been very disciplined throughout this entire year. if I were them, I'd focus a lot on the ground game. Just hopefully try to pound it down, Houston's throat. That was one of their weak links, I'd say, throughout the years, just kind of preventing good rushing and things like that. Maybe adding Dalvin Cook into their running back mix might also be something to look out for. I mean, he had a very lackluster season with the Jets, but maybe given the bye week and just his ability to kind of get fresh, get ready to be part of Baltimore, maybe it's just an extra piece they can throw in, that mix with guys like Melvin Gordon and others there. Like you're saying with Mark Andrews, that's a huge piece to have back, especially with Likely playing so well. Zay Flowers obviously been like one of their best receivers. You got Beckham there too. I like that whole offensive mix right now for the Ravens. This feels like if they were to match up with anybody, they'd want to take on maybe a young up and coming type team versus, if it was the Browns, I think that'd have been a tougher matchup for them, to be, quite honest. I mean, it's probably a bad take at this point, considering the outcome of, that wild card game between the two. But it's like the fact that, Stroud's going on the road, first game in as a rookie. I mean, we saw Joe Burrow do some amazing things with Cincy, in his first couple of seasons in the NFL. I mean, I think Stroud could be right there in terms of, his upside, his potential long term, like a guy like Burrow. But I just feel like this is a little bit too much to bite off in his first year. He got one of the best defenses there. I mean, Kyle Hamilton playing his way to an all-pro season, Roquan as well. I mean, I just like, the guys and the personnel they have there, and being at home in Baltimore, a little bit chillier. Those elements might be a little bit different for a dome team. So, man, yeah, I'm right there with you. I do think this is going to be a game. I don't want to take any team lightly past this point. I don't know if spreads can really be that big in the playoffs and feel real, confident about them. But, I think Baltimore's had a great year, and I think they can at least get this first victory here.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar is playing really well. We can talk about his, I guess, postseason record. I think it's like 1-3 or something like that. But I think this team seems just a little bit different. You also got to look at the coaching too. Like Harbaugh, he's one of the best coaches out there. Has a good track record. He's making the playoffs, making some runs here and there. Has a Super Bowl under his belt too, and also has a really good coaching staff. A lot, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They're getting some look-sees for head coaching positions. So, and rightfully so. They've, both McDonald and Monken have done a tremendous job, kind of just improving each side of the ball there. So I really like this team, really like the coaching. I mean, that's like one factor to take into account for, as we see the Cowboys kind of I think they just said that Mike McCarthy is going to be staying over there for the Cowboys. So sorry, Cowboys fans out there, you have my sympathies. Get well soon, etc. Looking forward to another 12-win season and then an early exit in the playoffs. But I just see that this Ravens team, I think they can bring it. It's just an unfortunate matchup, I think, for the Texans. I think they'll be able to get some pressure. Honestly, just trying a few errant throws here and there. And then Lamar, he just knows how to dissect a defense. I don't think he's going to be making the same like Joe Flacco mistakes there against the Texans defense. So especially with the weapons, pretty decent line as well. And if they're able to establish a running game with Cook, Gus Edwards, Hill, etc., there, then I think this game could definitely push that 9-point spread there. But yeah, I just have, I think, faith with CJ Stroud to keep it close. DeMeco Ryans, tremendous coach. Really good game plan, I think, against this last game against the Browns there. So it's just unfortunate, I think, for the Texans here. But I think Ravens, kind of walk away with this one here.
Agreed. The next one on Saturday, similar kind of vibe to it, but we've got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to take on the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, very similar vibe for sure. You got, a top-ranked team in their in that conference going against like a young up-and-coming team. Packers, youngest team in the league here. It'll be a fun one, I think, though. This is projected to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. I think I saw the over-under was like 50 some odd points there. So Shanahan, LaFleur, some of the best offensive minds out there. LaFleur with just a young squad there. Like all his wide receivers, tight ends are basically first and second years. So it's really great that what they've been able to kind of build from there now. So Jordan Love looked great. Packers have had a great season, I think. Beat everybody's, I think, at least, both of our expectations, a lot of analysts' expectations. That being said, it definitely felt like it was much more about the Cowboys kind of just cowboying. Maybe it's just it's just me and Cowboys fans, but just in how they kind of just choked up there against this Packers team. But 49ers too. This is a team that just has a history of succeeding both not just in the regular season but also in the playoffs. Albeit if they can just keep Brock Purdy healthy, I think that definitely is a big difference maker there. But they have all the talent in the world, great coaching. If they can, get ahead, that's definitely something to watch. Because if the Packers, if they get like a 10-0 score, I think we've seen that sometimes Shanahan is not the best when I guess trying to come back sometimes there. And then obviously his whole fourth quarter stuff as well. Going against elite quarterbacks and offenses, but it is a 9-point spread. 9-point spread here. Matt LaFleur against the spread as an underdog, 70% against the spread. So pretty good there. He was recently quoted as there's a little bit of freedom just kind of being the underdog. And I'm all for that. I love that attitude. I think that's the attitude you got to have, especially when you're going against a juggernaut like the 49ers. But I just think that this 49ers team, they're on a mission. They're not just thinking about the Packers. They'll definitely be focused here, but they have bigger aspirations here. So picking 49ers, but have the Packers covering the 9-point spread there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Niners are looking at, this playoff, game and saying, we really need to just win this game, just to have one under our belt. Whereas, like we've talked about with the Cowboys, it's that constant year in, year out pressure that they face being in one of the largest markets for football. I mean, Dak kind of looks nervous under the gun whenever it gets, around this time of year. McCarthy, we could probably digress and just talk about him as a coach, a leader, whatever you want to, call it. But I thought Green Bay did play well in that game in all phases. I mean, but obviously, I did feel like that first half was pretty much, on Dak's shoulders. I felt like the narrative was, Dak is choking up. He's, throwing these costly picks. And it got out of hand quickly. And that's what can happen when, just one thing leads to another. We saw the same thing happen in the Cleveland Houston matchup. Suddenly, the game just kind of gets away from you, So, all that said, I don't think we can discount what Jordan Love's meant to this team, what he's currently showing, what he's doing in his first year as a starter. I mean, similar to Stroud, I just feel like he's really picking up steam at the right time. He's arguably outplaying Brock Purdy as a quarterback, especially around this time, which matters most. I feel like just having that little bit of extra confidence, will do him wonders. I mean, it could make this game closer than most folks would consider. I mean, I think Purdy's had some of his struggles late here, and he's had to rely on some of his absolute superstars around him to get him, out of trouble. But I mean, that's the luxury that Purdy has. I mean, he's got all of his guys healthy. You name it, you go across the wide receiving core, pretty much money. You got one of the best tight ends in the game. Debatable whether or not he should have been first team All Pro. Another thing we could probably digress about. And then CMC. I mean, I love the guy. I feel like he's now getting his time to shine. This is his second time kind of going through this whole thing with the Niners, and just excited to see what they can do as a team. I think the Chase Young addition at the end of the year, probably properly rated at the time, but man, the impact that guy, probably has on that front four, the confidence they probably have in one another just to, apply pressure. I mean, Jordan Love's, gonna see it a lot, and I want to see how he, plays his way through that. So I think this game will be competitive. I don't know if Jordan Love's going to be enough to, get them over the top. I'm going to take the Niners as well. But I think that he will, earn a lot of respect in this game, and he may outperform Purdy when we look at just, stat lines or just impressions throughout the game. I think that might be one of the narratives we take away from this Saturday's game.
Yeah, this game is definitely going to be one of the most exciting games out there. Just I'm very excited to see it hit that 50-point spread basically, or that 50-point over under. So it's definitely projected to be a high scoring game. So I'll definitely be tuning in for that for sure, and seeing how many points can both teams score there, because these are two great young quarterbacks, have been playing really well, really talented teams out there, and great head coaches. Like, who would have think, like, great head coaching, right? We'll see what they could do for a young quarterback's development there. So very much so looking forward to this matchup and seeing if the Packers can pull something off, or the 49ers can take care of business here.
For sure. Moving on to Sunday, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting. Both teams in their passing games, they've just been kind of red hot. And kind of conversely, both the Lions and the Bucks passing defenses are, pretty bad. Like, bottom third is, I think, from the last time I checked there. So, the point total for this game, it looks like it's projected to be about 48.5. I'm definitely going to be picking the over for that. Like, I think this game's going to be a shootout, just the way that both secondaries have been playing, and then both passing games, like I mentioned before. Lions, they might be able to run the ball a little bit. The Bucks, they have one of the better. They have a top 10 run defense there, so that'll be interesting. But hey, the Bucks too. They just haven't been able to get the ball moving, and they're going to be going against one of the top ranked run defenses on the Lions there. So it's definitely going to be a lot of passing, maybe some bubble screens. The Bucks, they need to stop Amon St. Brown. Like, I think he had 12 receptions, 100, a lot yards basically against them in an earlier matchup where the Lions won there. So it was like 20-5. But honestly, like, Amon St. Brown, he was like the main guy. He was basically their only target that they were able to get moving there. Jared Goff had a great game. They didn't get anything really on the ground. I think they had like 40 yards running there. So it's really just stop Amon St. Brown, get to Jared Goff, and take care of business on the run. If the Bucks can do that, this can be a close one. That being said, this is the Lions at home. Goff, he's been really sharp, and they are going to have Gibbs too. I think Gibbs was missing in their first matchup there. So if they can, if the Lions can just not give up too many big plays, I think, Puka had a ridiculous game. Justin Jefferson had a ridiculous game against his Lions defense, right? I think Puka had 180 yards. Justin Jefferson, with Nick Mullins passing to him, at like 190 yards, and then I think like 140 yards or something like that. So if they can just like not keep it close to 200, like, sure, give Mike Evans 100 here and there. He's just a ridiculous talent, but kind of just not have a ridiculous game there. And maybe Aiden Hutchinson, he's had, I think, like 7 sacks the past, I believe, 3 games. So he's been able to get to the quarterback some there. If they're able to get some pressure against Baker, maybe get an errant throw here and there, that can definitely be the difference in the game. But 7.5 or 6.5, I should say. Lions, I think they win and cover. I think they can cover this. I just think they have a lot of momentum. I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit, especially at home. It's just going to be a raucous crowd. And, I think they have big aspirations this postseason. So, yeah, going to pick the Lions covering at 6.5.
Yeah. Man, I felt like the Tampa, Philly game was more of a story about Philly absolutely collapsing than it was about Tampa persevering, dominating, putting it to, Philly overall. It just felt like, that tail end of the season. We talked about that in the preview. It was just, this to me is about Philly quitting, not playing their best. Maybe there's an inner turmoil that we're still trying to figure out what the root of it all is. But man, I saw guys just quitting out there. I mean, passes that were going for 60 yards. I think the one to Trey Palmer. I just missed tackles. I think Ray Lewis commented on it with the Manning brothers on their their cast and everything like that. But I've seen stuff like that over the course here from Philly. in this tail end of the season where it's just giving up big play after big play, not gang tackling, not being like even the last resort, just kind of falling to their knees and, not really, getting the job done. So I don't know what it is, but there's just no reason for a team like that to go from what we were looking at as maybe a top 5, top 10 unit on defense to completely bottoming out toward the end of the year. For what it's worth, Mayfield did his job, had a great stat line, had a few touchdowns, had, I believe, over 300 yards passing in the game, due in part to some of those big plays. The defense completely shut Philly out. I mean, I know Hurts was playing with a, dislocated middle finger. He had a very pretty ball that went down the middle of the field, so I don't think he was completely inhibited by it. But I mean, for what it's worth, Tampa was bottom, I believe, 5 in the league in pass coverage, pass defense throughout the year. I mean, I think they're probably a little bit better than that now, just given, coming off this big win and kind of the tail end of their own season. But, to go up against Detroit, I think what they're going to have to do, like the Rams, is kind of try your best to shut down that run game and put all the pressure in the world on Jared Goff to beat you because I think that's the only strategy you can probably come with Detroit. You try to, balance out your, defensive attack a little bit too much. Like they're going to exploit that balance. So it is a huge boon for them to have Gibbs back. Like you were saying with Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, he's like controlling that short yard, mid-range yardage game. I feel like anytime he gets the ball, he's so choppy. He's kind of like Pacheco and just like his strength once he has the ball. I mean, he's able to break tackles and get those extra yards. Laporta, I mean, getting him back in another week, healthier is definitely going to be helpful for their, pass attack too. That game with Detroit and Los Angeles was like really competitive. For moments throughout the game, I actually felt like Los Angeles was going to win the game just because it just kept getting closer and closer to them. Putting it back into the red zone, or had they not decided to punt, with 5 minutes left to go and just win for it, I believe they needed 5 yards. Like that probably would have been a smart decision at the time. But yeah, it was a game of inches. Detroit completely earned that victory. And I think Los Angeles is a better team than Tampa, in my opinion. So I'm going to go right there with you. I have Detroit winning as well, and I'll have them covering this one because I do feel like this is a type of statement game. I think they'll come out, show what their offense is really all about, exploit the pass defense of Tampa, combining in a little bit of that run game too. But I think at least being at home and having what I think is an inferior opponent to match up with in the next round, they've learned enough from that first one, get it out of their way, get that victory under their belts, get a taste of what it's like to win in the playoffs nowadays. Like they're going to come in with a lot of fire and line themselves up for the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. I mean, how about the two Pennsylvania football teams kind of just not I think they're probably the two worst teams here in the entire playoffs, right? Albeit both kind of did it their own different way. The Eagles they kind of just slid in there, just looking having that hot start. It's like how can you not screw up a 10-1 season start basically there, and then having also the Steelers kind of just doing their typical Steelers thing, just manufacturing a win here and there somehow, some way with like really crappy quarterback play. So anyway, this game, Bucks, Lions, I see the Lions for sure. They're definitely looked a lot better against a really hot team at the Rams. I think we both picked them, or at least I know I did. So they won 7 of 8 games there. The Bucks, I think they're like 4-1, 5-1 again, in the last 5 or 6 games there. So they're playing pretty well too. That being said, the Lions I feel like are just in a different echelon here. So we'll see if Baker Mayfield, if he does step up his game a little bit. Had a really great game last game, but that was definitely against an Eagles team that just has lost. Kind of they look lost out there. I think Nick Sirianni, he's lost the locker room. So how about that, right? Like if you were to think about Eberflus and Sirianni, like if we were to talk about who would have a job like midway through the season, by the end of the season, it's like, oh, who would have think Eberflus, would be staying basically. But I mean, Nick Sirianni, we'll see if he does get another chance, if he's able to, kind of redeem himself next season. But just everything I've read and everything, it's like it feels like he's lost the locker room, and I think that's like what a lot of GMs and other head coaches, former head coaches, would say is if you lose the locker room, like good luck getting any other motivation or anything like that. You compare that type of MO or emotions that are happening in a locker room to what we see Dan Campbell doing over there with the Lions, right? Like he's got them pretty locked in and motivated. So really like what the Lions are doing. I think they advance here, and yeah, we'll see what happens though.
Yeah. On that point, I know it kind of moves away from the game itself, but I would consider it a travesty if Sirianni was let go, if it is only based on performance. If we are, talking about what you're talking about, if he's actually like caused some real rifts or there's some, un mitigatable damage that he's done to his team. Like I totally get that. I think that would probably be the only reason I would let him go on, because for 3 seasons to do what he's done with Philly, getting him to a Super Bowl last year, I mean, pretty much being one of the dominant forces in the NFC East. I mean, I think that that definitely says a lot. Um, they did go into that game without AJ Brown. From what I've heard, Brian Johnson, their offensive coordinator, has had problems with Jalen Hurts. I've heard Sean Desai, obviously a former Bears defensive coordinator, got his duties stripped from him and given over to Matt Patricia. I think both of those guys could probably be out the door. I know Brian Johnson at least has been getting looks as a possible head coach candidate, maybe an offensive coordinator for another team. But I think you bring in maybe one offensive coordinator, one defensive coordinator to really help right that ship after Steichen and Gannon left. And that's been a lot of the talk too. I've heard that Lurie and Howie Roseman have just been kind of like, debating whether or not they can, keep Sirianni and just bring in new coordinators. But they were talking about how that was an issue and that somebody's going to be let go. I mean, some folks are going to be let go regardless. I just think in today's day and age, like we did see McCarthy get retained after a 12-win year and a really shitty playoff performance, but it's like, it's too quick trigger to me, man. Like great head coaches don't grow on trees, man. They really don't. I mean, we look every single year, there's like 5 to 8 jobs available every year. I mean, just cycling through some of the retreads or trying to take a gamble on, who we think is the next big thing. Like, it doesn't always pay off. I mean, I'd almost get like gamble that it doesn't pay off majority of the times. And it's really hard to find, a guy like Sirianni who's young, pretty much done nothing but excel when you look at win-loss and getting his team to some pretty great heights. I mean, I think if he does get let go, he's going to have a job tomorrow kind of thing. So all this said, just like want to throw caution to the wind there that, just letting somebody go at the head coach spot, doesn't solve all your issues.
Yeah, 100%. Kind of like, how the Bears, they're kind of also just trying to figure out offensive coordinator right now and defensive coordinator too. So, yeah, a lot of, coaches. Hopefully the Bears get the best one and not the Eagles, but yeah, if I'm the Eagles for sure, if I'm an offensive coordinator, like if I'm like I don't know, like a Kellen Moore, maybe I want to like have more seasoning, kind of prove myself a little bit more, then that's definitely a great opportunity, I think, to just join that roster. Albeit, yeah, they're not going to have Kelsey anymore. So, but they still have a loaded roster, still one of the better offensive lines, and young talent in Jalen Hurts. So, and a good wide receiver core too. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thing to talk about. Sorry, Bucks and Lions fans, to make this a little bit more about the Eagles and their downfall here, but we just definitely had to feel like mention it. Just because it's such a interesting story and how that season just kind of washed away there, right there at the end there. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. But as far as Detroit Tampa goes, it sounds like we're both on the same side. We're looking at Detroit going over pretty handsomely. So moving on to our last one, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs going on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills.
Here it is. Okay, this is definitely going to be a fun one, I think. So, and we'll see if we're aligned on this, because hey, this is a very interesting game. Talk about one of the biggest rivalries in all the NFL. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen here. This will be the first playoff road game for Patrick Mahomes, which is unbelievable to think about, right? But this just goes to show how tremendous they've been, and also how they kind of have taken a back seat or stepped back a little bit here. So Bills, they've won their last 2 regular season matchups here against the Chiefs. In the head-to-head matchups overall, Josh Allen is 3-1 in the regular season against Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes, though, he's 2-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. So that's, kind of where it counts here. And I'll get more into kind of, what my theories are on that a little bit. But, Mahomes, too, like the Bills, they're 3-point favorites here. It's at home. Bills have been playing lights out, tremendous. Josh Allen on a whole nother world right now. But, Mahomes, 8-1-1 career as an underdog. So he's been an underdog in 10 games his entire career. But that's an unbelievable record, against the spread as an underdog there, 8-1-1. So, this is an away game, right? His away record is better than his home record, which is hard to think about because he plays at Arrowhead, one of the loudest stadiums in the world. So, 39-11 away record versus a 35-11 home record. So he's even better away against the spread too. So than he is at home. 28-20-2 away, 25-21 at home. So a lot of interesting, I guess, numbers there to think about. If you're a bettor, and then also just as a fan, it's like how is this going to turn out too. So shorter week by the Bills or for the Bills. They played on Monday, and their matchup's going to be on Sunday here. So compare that to the Chiefs, who they played on Saturday. So that's more time to rest, a little bit more time to study, and kind of look in advance and see maybe game plan for the Bills probably a little bit more, because I think everybody and their mom kind of predicted the Bills to win that matchup there. So the Chiefs defense, I think, is a difference maker. Bills, their injuries have piled up a little bit on the defense, getting a little bit healthier. It looks like Rasul Douglas, he's going to be playing. But yeah, I think they've just been battered up a little bit. Like I mentioned before too, about the shorter week here. And the main difference maker for me to pick the Chiefs as the underdog, I think, is the coaching. I think you take Andy Reid versus Sean McDermott. I take Andy Reid 100% of the time. You add in Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, a revamped defense too. I think also too, if Patrick Mahomes, he can just manufacture some touchdowns here and there, kind of play that game manager role a little bit. I think that does it here. I think the Chiefs defense will be able to slow down Josh Allen and that offense. I know the Bills won the regular season matchup here, but like I mentioned before, this is the playoffs. Is third time the charm for Josh Allen to beat Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so. I'm taking the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes advancing to their 5th straight AFC Championship game here.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I want to go with you too on this one, just because it seems too fitting. It seems almost too certain that a team like the Chiefs, will go, into Buffalo, into a hostile, environment with Mahomes going there for his first time and, knock it off. And I think that'll kind of, build on his story, his narrative for being one of the greatest players, greatest quarterbacks of all time. I totally see that whole narrative. There's a strong part of me that just wants to push back and take Buffalo. I feel like for all the good things you've said about Josh Allen, I think that extends the whole team. When I look at what's been going on the second half of this season, it's been a tale of 2 years for the Bills themselves. They've been extremely resilient, getting through some of these games. I did feel like there was a moment in that Pittsburgh game where Pittsburgh started inching in on that one, and I was like, okay, this might actually be a football game here to close it out. And luckily Buffalo was able to get that extra touchdown to just pad their lead a little bit. But there was some scares throughout that game. It wasn't a walk in the park for Buffalo, especially in the second half. But again, I know, like you're saying, the injuries have started to pile up. If Terrell Bernard is not playing, and they're going to go back to AJ Klein as their Mike, I think that will be a huge loss for them. I mean, Bernard was one of their best players on defense all year. I do like the fact that there's been a lot of guys stepping up for Buffalo in times where they've had major injuries. I feel like Taylor Rapp in the secondary has done a great job, just kind of covering in for Rasul Douglas, others making a big pick in one of their last games in the regular season. I feel like we're to this point now where you just got to look at Buffalo and who they are and how they feel going up against KC. I don't think that they fear them. I think that they see themselves as equals when they go up against the Chiefs. I feel like Josh has had some huge games. Obviously a big loss a couple seasons ago to Pat Mahomes with that amazing overtime performance by both guys. I feel like there is that mutual respect there between them. Obviously, like you said, KC lost the regular season matchup at home. Going into Buffalo, I think that's a great advantage for Buffalo themselves, just to have the crowd behind them in this one. I don't think the weather's really going to play a factor either because KC just hosted the Dolphins in what was it, -7 weather, -30 wind chill or something. So I feel like that's kind of a neutral. And I think that Reed, I'd obviously take over McDermott any day. This just feels like, to me, it's Buffalo's season. It's Buffalo's time. I know that's probably it's even hard to say, man, because I do see like how sneaky, great KC's going to be, especially as underdogs going into this one. But I feel like if Josh Allen's really ever going to be revered as one of the greats of this era, he's got to get this win. I mean, this is kind of a make it or break it for his career. I don't think Buffalo is going to have as many great opportunities as they do this year, especially with the home field advantage. So going against some of my instincts here, like my gut is kind of like after what KC did to Miami at home, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's really hard to give them any sort of disservice here. But I'm gonna go with the Bills.
Hey, that's definitely a good pick, I think, too. Like, I've been back and forth a little bit about this. I think maybe this is my hot take. I think if the Bills win this game, they're gonna be so hyped up and motivated, they're gonna take it all the way. But more on that later, I guess. But yeah, this will definitely be a great matchup. And hey, like I mentioned before too, the Bills have won the past two regular season games, and that's obviously without, who is it? Tyreek Hill. So they match up really well, at least of late, without Tyreek Hill. And Josh Allen, like I mentioned, he's playing probably the best football he's ever played, and can definitely carry the team. It almost feels like kind of how, in a way, it was like Aaron Rodgers, right? I think when he won that Super Bowl, kind of like that, where they were kind of struggling a little bit, and then they just got hot, and nobody can beat them. They had some injuries too, and I was like, how are they winning all these games with all these hurt players? But Aaron Rodgers kind of took the team on his back, and it seems like Josh Allen's kind of doing something similar. So yeah, I don't know if the Bills win this one, and I don't see any team kind of stopping them. But yeah, I think, hey, that's definitely going to be, I think, this game will be a fun one to watch there.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'll also add about KC to me is that they have been leading a lot with their defense this year. I haven't seen a lot of amazing offensive performances coming from the entire team this whole season. I feel like that first round against Miami, you were going up against a lot of their reserves. They lost a lot of guys as well in that home stretch. And I mean, even then, I don't think they had to really drop the hammer to win that game. I think they put up 27, but I mean, I feel like against a team like that, it probably should have been blown open a little bit more if this was your typical KC team. So, I mean, I see a lot of leaning on Rashee Rice, and that's probably been their most effective weapon throughout the course of this season. I mean, Travis Kelce, to me, has also taken a bit of a step back. I mean, he's had maybe one of the lighter seasons that he's had in a while. I mean, it still makes him like a top 3 tight end, but he had some pretty costly drops in that Miami matchup. He doesn't necessarily look himself. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like they are leaning on guys like Pacheco that I think, lead with effort first versus overall just like dynamic skill. To be honest with you, I love Pacheco because he's just so hard nosed and he's just like, wanting to injure the other, the other player when it comes to tackling and stuff. So I just appreciate how he goes about the game. I just feel like they are a little bit undermanned, in my opinion, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. And if their defense can lock it down and play to their standard, it's going to be a low scoring, game where I think KC prevails. But I just haven't seen enough of that offense to feel like very confident in them.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Like this Bills team has, I think, a lot more momentum. They're playing better. But yeah, I just like the Chiefs. There's no other way to put it. And I'm glad. Yeah, the Bills are finally passing to Khalil Shakur. Like I was big on him. I did not like Velus Jones there for the Bears at the third round. Khalil Shakur fell to the fifth round there. I really liked him, but anyway, yeah, this will definitely be a fun one I think to watch, regardless. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think. Uh, Part of me does want to cheer for Josh Allen though, just because he's lost twice to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs now. He's got to win one, right? Like it's got to be a rivalry, but it's not a rivalry if it's one team or one player is kind of just dominating the playoffs.
Yeah, I always appreciate some new blood there too. We saw obviously in the 2000s and 2010s that Tom Brady and the Patriots would always somehow find a way, to get into the Super Bowl. And it's like, I just don't want that same thing to kind of keep running itself back year in, year out. Like, I appreciate Patrick Mahomes. I want him to have success. I think he's a classy guy. But I also think the same with Josh Allen. It's like, I think he's played to that same standard, this year and in past years too. It's just like, he's got to get over that hump. So hopefully he does that. Buffalo's starving for their first championship. Like, this would be a great way to kind of kick that whole thing off, that run. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I could totally see KC going in there and upsetting them, but stick with Buffalo and see how this one plays its way out.
Yeah. But yeah, like Travis Kelsey, is he gonna retire? Like, I don't know. Like his brother, he's retiring. Like, yeah, I agree with you. I think I've noticed that too. He just seems like he's not as passionate or he's thinking about Taylor. I don't know what's happening there, but he definitely feels a little distracted. He's not like all in there. So, but hey, maybe this is the game. He does get a little bit more focused there. It's like, this is gonna be my last season or something. I'm gonna, go out with a bang. So I'm gonna give it my all there. Hand the ball over to Rashee Rice as the primary number one for Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 years. So, but yeah, if this is Travis Kelsey's last season, that'll be interesting to pay attention to. And the Kelseys will just be podcasting, I think, for for now until eternity. So, but yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on there. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of game he has, I think, against the Bills here. But he'll definitely be, I think, an X factor no matter what, though.
Yeah, he's got his choice in terms of career after, football's all done with. When you think about what he's actually playing for, more championships are great, but I think even Gronk had his limits in terms of putting his body on the line and like doing it for the Super Bowl victories. Maybe if there's anything, Travis wants to kind of move up the tight end board in terms of, statistics and things like that too. Like I could definitely see that. But at 34, going into 35, that's kind of like tail end of career, in my opinion, for a tight end. Like you said about his brother, they do that like great podcast together, and like I think just being with Taylor's probably only amplified, his status, his image, and things like that. And yeah, I can't fault the guy. If he's on the doorstep of maybe getting married and like trying to settle down and stuff too, like maybe football isn't the first thing in line when it comes to just what's truly important to him today. But yeah, it's just funny to see like just some very routine catches being dropped by a guy like that who's just made that, his business. And it's like, I don't know what's going on, man, to be honest with you. He just looks like a different player this year. So we'll have to see, man. Again, this is a different KC team than the ones we've seen in past seasons. That defense has really stepped up. So to me, like that's where it starts. And then you also have Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, and he'll find a way, So we'll see. But this one shall be good. We've got our choices here locked for the 4 games coming up this weekend. I guess the only other question to ask you is, looking past this weekend, maybe we don't go into conference championships and all that, or what have you, but Super Bowl matchup, who do you have, locked up here as we move into February?
Yeah, no, I mean, could definitely get a little bit into the conference matchups. I mean, I feel like I've already talked about those individual teams a little bit there that, I think we projected to win here. So, you know, in the NFC, I got Lions versus 49ers, which, this is definitely going to be a fun matchup, I think. A lot of Lions fans, they're very excited. Like, yay, we're here. Yay, we don't suck this season. But then it's like, yeah, you're going against the 49ers. This is business as usual. They expected this. So, long story short, I'm going to pick the 49ers here, advancing to the Super Bowl. I think they just have had the easiest run to, I think, the Super Bowl like in years compared to any other team. I mean, with the Eagles, kind of having the the fallout that they've had is just amazing. How I want to say easy that they have a road again to the Super Bowl. But yeah, they just have a really, I feel like, easy. Not to say that the Lions are an easy team to defeat, but they just have a lot of holes. Whereas this 49ers team, like, it's hard to kind of pick and choose exactly where they have, some flaws basically. So, yeah, I just see the 49ers advancing there. And then, on the other side of the AFC, at least for me, I had the Chiefs versus the Ravens. And I'm going to pick the 1 versus 1 seeds coming out of both conferences. It doesn't happen too often, but in this scenario, I'm like, the Ravens have been playing really well too. And then, yeah, also the 49ers. And then a lot of the other teams have been just kind of up and down, except, yeah, maybe the Bills. So I have to pick the Ravens here. I think it's going to be a Ravens and 49ers, a little bit of a rematch, albeit not all or not the Harbaugh brothers again here, introducing Shanahan as a new villain, I think, for the Ravens. So, and with all that being said, my Super Bowl pick, I'm going to take the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. For whatever reason, I just don't have faith, I guess, in Kyle Shanahan in Super Bowl games as much. So, and I have a lot more faith in Harbaugh in that culture that they have. I think both coordinators are tremendous. I think like I said, the coaching is definitely amplified. I feel like a lot more in the playoffs. Lamar finally gets a little bit more of that monkey off his back with regards to not being able to, win some big games here. I think he's got a tremendous team. He can pass the ball. He has wide outs. Mark Andrews, his top wide out. I think he's a tight end, but he's honestly the top wide out. He's going to be healthy, and yeah, that defense is just playing tremendously, both from the linebackers to the secondary to the line, right? Being able to get to the quarterback. I think they're just firing on all cylinders right now. They also have, lo and behold, the best kicker of all time, too. So I just feel really good, I think, about picking Ravens winning the Super Bowl for me.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's a bold take, man. It's a bold take only because Baltimore has been a lot like Dallas in past seasons where even when they have an amazing regular season, build a ton of momentum, they have this, ability to kind of disappoint. And, we'll have to see. I mean, I feel like Houston's a great matchup for them to kind of build confidence. I feel like that's a winnable game for them at home. They've played them at home this year too, earlier in the season. I mean, it's a much different ball game now, but I think that first victory for Baltimore will be really big for them. In some ways too, they kind of remind me of the Dodgers just because, like, I don't know, man, there might be something between the years with Lamar. There might be something that just doesn't click when it comes to this timing. Maybe it's like kind of like Dak Prescott type outlook on maybe his abilities to get it done in the clutch. Like, we'll just have to see. But this is the best shot that Baltimore's had ever as a team, kind of going into the playoffs, and they need to capitalize. But I think they have the talent to get it done. Just have to see, if Lamar and company can go ahead and do that. On my end, I feel like, looking at the NFC, I'm going to follow you right there. I feel like, San Fran gets their win this weekend in what should be, a pretty winnable game. They match up with Detroit. For all the things that Detroit does best, it's on the offensive side of the ball, and San Fran just does that a little bit better too. So, bringing that defense to Jared Goff and be something he hasn't necessarily seen, you know, as much of maybe in the NFC North throughout this year. I mean, in this playoffs as well, I feel like Detroit's not going to face a better defense than San Francisco. There's just too much talent there for me, especially, you know, going to be playing at home, being hungry from kind of losing last year's championship game in the NFC. I think that's going to really motivate these guys to come out and play to their best. I'm thinking the one thing that holds them back could be Brock Purdy. We'll have to see how he does, against this game in Green Bay. That'll tell me a lot, just how he comes out and plays the game, because he's the one thing that I think could really help sink that ship early if they were to go down. But I think they get through Detroit and build some momentum, going into that Super Bowl. On the other side, I think this KC Buffalo game is, basically the AFC Super Bowl. I think whoever wins that game for me is going all the way to the Super Bowl. I've obviously talked about Buffalo, squeaking past KC in that one, but I think they can do the same thing against Baltimore. I just like the experience that the Bills have had, especially Josh Allen playing in some of the bigger games. I feel like Lamar in the past couple of seasons hasn't really had the best team around him or behind him to kind of build that experience with some of his guys, build that rapport that I think you need in really high stakes games, really pressure packed games as well. And yeah, the defense is one thing for Buffalo. If they can get some of their guys back, that'll help. But they've just been clicking on all cylinders to me. They feel like the team of destiny, is, at least in the AFC. So pick them going to the Super Bowl to take on the Niners. It's crazy because then we get there. I love Buffalo. I would definitely side with them. I'd pull for them. I'd cheer very loud for Josh Allen. But I think from the start of this year, the one thing that I said in kicking off our predictions and doing previews for the entire NFL is like, San Francisco, they're their own worst enemy if they are to go down. I mean, I feel like they have just too much talent. I like everything that they have on the offensive side of the ball, especially when Purdy's in rhythm. Defensively, I don't really see much of a flaw there. And I just think they need to, put together a couple of victories here in, the NFC to kind of get them rolling. But overall, I think the one thing I've said is if they can just stay healthy, they're the best team in the NFL. And I'll stand on that. I think if they go up against Buffalo, that's going to be a good game for them. It's going to be the best one they play, this playoff season. But I've got San Francisco going over, and I don't know what the score will be, but I think they could, beat them at least by maybe 7.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's a solid take. The one thing I will say about the Ravens is that it always feels like Lamar Jackson during the playoffs, he has no supporting cast. They're all hurt. Like usually they're all hurt. Now they're healthy. I mean, granted, Andrews is kind of coming back from an injury. No Dobbins, but the rest, like they've always had a banged up offensive line or banged up key defensive players. So, but yeah, like you mentioned before, though, even with the Niners, the health as well, especially in the playoffs, and if Brock Purdy can make it to the Super Bowl, not be too damaged here and there. I mean, yeah, when when he had Brock Purdy getting taken out of the game, he had McCaffrey taking snaps under center, like everybody kind of figured the game was done then. So yeah, if every whoever is kind of healthy, that's always I think a key thing there. But yeah, I like the Buffalo pick. I honestly I think I put 2 wagers out there. It was Ravens winning over the 49ers, and then San Francisco, actually basically your pick there, San Francisco beating the Bills, because I definitely see this Bills team making at least a run there if they can get past the Chiefs. I feel like the Bills have more playoff experience than the Ravens, so I like that matchup for the Bills there actually there. But yeah, no, I think that's a good solid take. And yeah, the 49ers, best team I think in football, best roster in football, only got better in the offseason. And then yeah, healthy Brock Purdy. Purdy's been playing out of his mind basically all season. Their entire team has been healthy really right now. So like you mentioned before, Debo Samuels, Trent Williams, they're still there. So if they can just play and be healthy, then this team, it's going to be really hard to stop. So, and yeah, they have probably the easiest road to the Super Bowl compared to the AFC there. So, yeah, I think that's a good solid take there.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing Baltimore could prioritize, I mean, let's say they don't get the job done, past the Houston matchup. I think they've really got to, go back and get a stud running back. Go back and, wash out this whole like cupboard of just different pieces. I just feel like any team that's, playing Baltimore, I mean, you can't necessarily drop back and just prioritize, locking down the passing game because Lamar will kill you. But it's like if Lamar just had another guy who was just as explosive as him, with some of his wide receivers, like it could be argued, before Zay Flowers showed up, like they never really had a one or even like a solid two. Like you just need to keep surrounding Lamar with some top flight weapons. And I mean, that team would be pretty much unstoppable. I just feel like they kind of do this to themselves where it's like, Dobbins, that was unpredictable. I mean, obviously he did have the ACL before this year, but it's like, you know, I guess they went into this year banking on Dobbins being healthy and kind of having like 1,000-yard season. But you need to get like another guy you can rely on, like a Dobbins, to really take this team to another level, in my opinion.
I'm hearing a lot of Derrick Henry talk. Like that would be amazing, right? Because it sounds like that was his last season with the Titans. Sounds like he wants to win a Super Bowl before he, kind of calls it a career. I think he's 27, 28 or something like that. So, but his game definitely translates, for the long haul, just a tough physical specimen that could run down. So I would love to see Henry joining the Ravens there. I mean, I think he is a running back, so the caps is going to be a little bit cap friendly probably there. But yeah, like it is. I agree with your point there. I think having that running back there that kind of similar to the 49ers. If you remove Christian McCaffrey a little bit there, there's still a great squad, right? But Christian McCaffrey takes them over by a lot. So adding in, even a little bit over the hill, Derrick Henry, I think could definitely be a key addition to the Ravens going forward. So, but yeah, Lamar, great talent, great guy, and everything. He definitely deserved the big contract he had this offseason, and yeah, going to be the MVP. It looks like it too this season. So, but yeah, I'm really gunning for him to win a Super Bowl too. Kind of get that monkey off his back a little bit there too. But yeah, great season overall by Lamar and the Ravens, and hopefully he continues on to the Super Bowl here. But yeah, Derrick Henry, I would love to have that happen.
For sure. Well, I guess that about covers it in terms of, everything that's going on for this playoff season through the Super Bowl. Wayne, I didn't know if you had any just final, takes about the NFL or really anything else before we close out.
Cookie butter ice cream. I went to Trader Joe's the other day. Got a zip car because it's cold out here, so got a zip car. Went down Lakeshore Drive, went to the Lakeview one on Clybourne, the Trader Joe's there. This was like right before everything was just going to be shutting down. Like it was like the snowstorm of the century. Like every other year, that is what the 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 experts always say here. But it was like shoulder to shoulder at Trader Joe's. Basically, everybody was just gearing up. All the oat milk was basically gone. And but yeah, I saw a recipe. Somebody gave me a really good idea about getting some cookie butter from Trader Joe's, the best, and making some ice cream out of it. And such a good idea. I actually bought some more cookie butter actually from Trader Joe's there as well, and probably gonna be making a little bit more because it's so good. I actually made two versions. I made one using condensed milk because it was just like a quick way to do it. You don't need an ice cream maker. Just put a little condensed milk, a little bit of whipping cream in there as well, and then if you want to add sugar or whatever, that's totally fine too. And then I did one that was a little bit more, had some a little bit more of a custard base, had some eggs in there, whipping cream as well, and then some whole milk too. So good, so good. I definitely prefer, the one that required a little bit more labor of love with the eggs. But yeah, definitely check it out. I'm sure you can find a good recipe. Maybe I'll post like an image or something like that on YouTube or on the video here. But yeah, awesome, delicious. Definitely recommend. Pat, if I could send it to you, if I didn't have to like go and be all chemist about it and put it into like some dry iced box or whatever, which would probably cost me an arm and a leg a little bit, I would definitely send you some. But yeah, definitely recommend for anybody that is interested in new ice cream recipes.
Yeah, man. You're on this ice cream game right now. I feel like I've heard of like a bunch of different flavors coming from your workshop and stuff. I will say over here we had been making a lot of milkshakes. At least throughout the holiday season, I've been trying to at least cut back a little bit as we move into the new year and get back on a good track. But I also was like really into trying out different things with my magic bullet. Basically, just throwing a couple scoops in there, some milk, trying out different flavors. I think I did one with some mint Oreos that was just pretty much awesome. I mean, it came out more like a McFlurry than it did a milkshake, but it was still, really damn good. And every week, I feel like it was just messing with caramel, messing with, chocolate syrup and things like that. Doing some basics with vanilla too, just the extract and stuff. But yeah, ice cream is, definitely a favorite of mine when we think about dessert category and just like, just that homey, guilty pleasure and things like that. But no, it sounds pretty cool, man. Yeah, you'll have to share more on the IG account or wherever you can to show our viewers like what you're really up to over there.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely made that, and I don't know why I'm making so many cold things when the weather is like sub-zero, but for me, it's definitely some comfort food. I definitely have gone the other way. I'm pretty sure I've gained. I'm not even gonna look at the scale or anything. I'm not gonna weigh myself, but pretty sure I've gained a couple pounds here and there to start off the new year. But it definitely has been a little mad scientist experimenting on different flavors and such. I did make a dragon fruit ice cream, which I am not proud of. Like I use a little bit of coconut milk, but dragon fruit in the U.S. Is very bland actually. Like it doesn't taste really much
Mm.
like anything. So that there's really no flavor. Like you can put sugar on it, it'll taste like sugar. You can put milk or honey in it, it'll taste like milk and honey. It really has not too much flavor, right? So definitely gonna scrap that one. But yeah, definitely check out any type of cookie butter ice cream for sure. If you don't have an ice cream maker, yeah, utilize some condensed milk. That's definitely the best path forward. So, but yeah, I don't know what it is with ice cream when it's cold, whether it's a milkshake like you, Pat, or just making some of your own. It definitely, I don't know, it makes things a little bit easier. It just makes life nice. I feel like is the best way to put it.
Yeah, man. No, I totally love ice cream. And for the record, mint Oreos completely destroy Thin Mints. So anybody who's like a big Girl Scout cookie fan, things like that, save your money, dude. Just go out get the mint Oreos. They're way better. But give it a try if you like chocolate mint, and let me know what you think. Because seriously, man, I tried them for the first time, probably a month ago now, and I was like, holy crap,
Yeah,
how did I never know about these? But
yeah.
man, yeah, they changed the game for me for sure.
I'll probably make ice cream out of that now. Probably like, hey, Girl Scouts, just give me a bunch of cookies, mint, Thin Mints or whatever, and then just make some good. Or is it the Samoas or whatever? Like, oh man, that would be a tremendous thing. I feel like so those things are addicting. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Plus,
Um.
you don't have to spend like $10 a box, Like those girls are just standing out there hustling. And I feel like nowadays they're taking credit, they're taking Apple Pay. They've got, crypto accounts and stuff. It's like, man, just seriously, just stop standing in front of the grocery store making me feel guilty that I'm not going to spend $50 with you today. And like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to go and grab my Oreos and call it a night.
Yeah, those girls are some legalized drug dealers for sure. I feel like so. All right, yeah. Enough of
All right, well,
the fat talk and calling young girls drug dealers. What is your final thought?
yeah, man. I guess Indian food, it's kind of come on my radar. Had some last night actually. Big fan of chili chicken, just in general. Just chicken. Sometimes they, can. I think they more or less. You can saute it. They can either fry it. It kind of depends on the place. This one had a thicker chili sauce around it. Did some green peppers, some onions. It was very good. It's been a while since I've had like really memorable Indian food, especially being out in DC, which is too bad because of our scene out here. I think it's great overall. There's a place called Rasika that's kind of on the top 100 list for Washington Magazine. I feel like it falls within the top 10 even. So one that I have to try. I always get garlic naan with whatever I get. I think overall, like it just makes the meal, like kind of pulling that apart and playing with, the entree itself within the pita. And then I also had some vegetable pakora, kind of like these vegetable fritters. I think it's like lentils, potatoes, onion, kind of all fried up and stuff. So it's just a pretty good appetizer. Um, I feel like when I think about Indian food, I always come back to Chicago. There's a place on Devon Avenue up north. It's called Garib Nawaz. They basically do all the staple entrees, Indian food and stuff, but usually at a fraction of the price that you'd normally have to pay for carry out or sit down or anything like that. But their chili chicken, man, is second to none. I feel like I've tried chili chicken from so many different places. And just anytime I went to Garib Nawaz up north, like right around where my brother used to live, I would just always just house it, and it's still super memorable to this day. So if you haven't gone to Garib Nawaz up north, like go check it out. It's kind of in this Bollywood type neighborhood, so every single restaurant on the block is like Indian or Pakistani, and then they also have like arts and craft stores, mom and pops. It's all Indian, authentic in that sense. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, man, I wanted to just know, like, do you get down with Indian food? And then if you do, like, what are some of your favorites that you go to?
Yeah, no, I do. One of my neighbors growing up, right, is Indian and everything, and the mom would always just like give us, you know, they have like the best rice. It's like the best rice, I feel like, so I would have that. Um, and I think my favorite dish, I just had some today actually. So yeah, when I went to Trader Joe's, like whenever I go to Trader Joe's, I always load up on like frozen Indian food for whatever reason, just because it's like I'm not in favor of just like cooking it. I'd rather just buy it or whatever there. But um, to your point though, yeah, like palak paneer is my favorite. I would say just because it's like it's light but has a lot of flavor there. It's that spinach. It also looks really cool too. I'm definitely a green type of guy, but yeah, it has that like Indian cheese with that spinach, creamy like gravy that's basically on top. Having that with some Indian rice, like I could eat that for a week basically. So I definitely am a favor of Indian food. And I'll definitely got to check. I don't think I've actually been there. Nawaz looks like yeah on Devon, so it looks like it's got really good ratings. I think I see it on DoorDash, so I might have to take a little gander there, or just take up a nice trip up there. Maybe when it gets a little bit warmer, or maybe I take a little ride up there, and kind of gut it out with the weather here. But that sounds really good too. Um, Definitely check out Devon if you are in the neighborhood in Chicago. Definitely great Indian food and just a great culture there too. So, but yeah, palak paneer, hands down. Always love a garlic naan for sure, though.
Yeah. I think the thing that I like about Garib too is that neighborhood just gives you that old style Chicago feel. Like nowadays there's so much development throughout these cities. There's so much new that's kind of going up that, kind of looking at what is preserved from like traditional Chicago neighborhoods and like those small mom and pop shops, those blocks that would just be kind of filled with them. And you got those old like brownstones and like brick apartment buildings and stuff. Like I just feel like that is what I remember Chicago being. So anytime I used to go up in that neighborhood, or if I think about it nowadays, it's like I still think that whole area would probably be preserved in the way that it was left. But it's cool when you are on that north side of Chicago and you can just dart over to these different neighborhood blocks, and it's like a specific ethnicity kind of embodies that whole area and stuff. So like you will totally get the Indian vibe when you go into that block, and I think that's another great part about it. But yeah, man, pretty versatile when it comes to Indian. Like, love chicken tikka masala, butter chicken. I do like the stuff you can buy at grocery stores a takeaway. We'll shout out Costco again because I'm a complete fanboy. They do have some really nice packaged meals that you can buy to go and stuff for Indian stuff too. So, but yeah, I'll keep it at that. Yeah, folks, check it out. Maybe we could just drop their name and maybe a little bit of a graphic here just to like make it clear to folks. But yeah, give them a shout. I think when you go in there, you'll get like a big steel tray. They'll throw your entree on one part of it, and then you get like a little bit of yogurt sauce, some veggies. You can also have your naan there on the side too. So man, yeah. Now I just want to go to Garib and try it again for another time.
Yeah. And to your point with regards to, I think it is nice to preserve some of the culture, right, in neighborhoods, right? You can only have so many Trader Joe's in places. It definitely is a different feel, when a Warby Parker comes in, right? So it is nice to have, I think, those cultural elements, preserving that. I think oftentimes we see, you're right, is that, I know some people too, it's like, especially of Asian or Indian type of backgrounds, if their parents hold or own a restaurant or some sort of business, right? Is that second generation? It's like, all right, well, we're going to retire. What do you like? We would like for you to preserve the history and take over this restaurant, but it's like, well, we don't want to. We're educated. We have a degree, whatever, and we want to do our own thing. Maybe doctor, lawyer, all that other fun stuff, engineer. So it is interesting how that's all happening. But oftentimes I do see now too is they come back. The second generation will come back, or first generation will come back, and buy a property, and hold nonprofit board positions to kind of preserve a little bit of culture in those neighborhoods. And I really like to see that. I think that's something that can carry it on to whatever type of community areas are out there. And kind of seeing some of that in Uptown too, which is kind of close to where I'm at. So definitely all for that and preserving, a little bit of the history, a little bit of the heritage. And then, maybe Trader Joe's wouldn't be so bad, because I do want that cookie butter to be a little bit closer to me, as I create more ice cream out of it.
Yeah. No, on that point too, I feel like there was a family I grew up with. They owned a place called the Cobble House in Skokie. Afghani family. The restaurant was incredible. But what I really thought was cool is that the family members really rallied around it and made that about their education. And I think since they left, high school, college, they've only opened up more locations. And like that's the beauty of it. It's kind of like they've expanded, that cuisine, that culture across the north suburbs of Chicago and stuff. So, rooting on the Cobble House as well. Still like to get out there and actually try it. I don't even think I had the opportunity to try it when I was growing up and stuff like that too, but definitely knew that family and they seem like real go-getters. So, hopefully more of that stuff takes place. But getting into the restaurant business, for all those folks out there who've watched The Bear, like it looks like a complete bitch, and I'm sure it is. And when you've got that, American education, you have your options, whether you want to get into finance, business, whatever it is, and you can take an easier approach to wealth building. Like it's a great debate to make for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, do I want to become a doctor, a lawyer? Do I have that corporate, white collar job, or do I get my hands dirty and take takeout orders and stuff like that, and build my own empire? It is an interesting, I think, area. And yeah, shout out to the Bear. I think they won some Emmys or whatever, some Golden Globes. So definitely, I love the Bear. Great episode. I live close to actually Mr. Beef, and I do recall like them shooting. I was like, what is like who's gonna shoot at this Italian beef restaurant spot? Like I live literally like a couple of blocks away from Mr. Beef location there. So but yeah, like love the episode. I think Marcus, the episode in season 2 when he goes to Copenhagen is probably my favorite episode there. I think he's like a little, becomes like a pastry chef more so of fine tunes his craft, learns from like a very calm, methodical individual who doesn't put all the pressure of the world on him. And yeah, just a beautiful episode. I think season 2, that's just like a really good season. I think each episode carries its own weight and has something different there. But yeah, speaks to, I think, having restaurants in the family and that kind of communal aspect that you have overall. So really like The Bear. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. I know probably every other friend that you've had has probably talked about The Bear, but it definitely, I think, is worth watching for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to jump back on the bandwagon. I felt like I watched 4 episodes and put a pause on it for a while, but in the last couple weeks, basically caught all the way back up to the point of finishing season 2. And I agree, like Marcus going out and doing that, it really resonated with me. Just getting a chance to go abroad and doing a lot of that in my 20s. Like I feel like I definitely learned a lot from being on my own, but also just kind of going after the adventure and trying to learn through it. I feel like definitely builds a lot of character. It teaches you a lot of great life lessons, aside from all the skills you probably picked up working with that other pastry chef. But yeah, it was just very cool to see the the amount of talent development they put into those chefs in all different facets, like in all different sorts of ways. But definitely makes for a great crew and just some really great character development in that show. I mean, I know we're completely deviating away from Indian food at this point, but yeah, I mean, I think in general, like really well written show, really talks about, I think just mental health and kind of how to manage it, how it is unmanageable at times too. Like even if you're doing all the greatest things in the world, some things are completely unavoidable as well. So yeah, man, I don't think we need to pump it up as much as we have to at this point. I think the media has done that enough. But yeah, from 2 guys who come from Chicago, like for sure a very great show that definitely resonates.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, how does Marcus get like the best treatment out of there? Like a trip to Copenhagen and being like, going to Noma and all that, where it's like, he sends like the other ones to, to dry up forks and to like culinary school, like, for people that have been cooking like 20 years at a restaurant. Like, how does he get that? Like a free trip, a free international trip, like all expenses paid there, but yeah, definitely great show and all that. But I just wanted to point that out. It's like it seems a little ridiculous, like compared to the rest. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I'd say is if you're looking at his upside and his age, you probably want to make the biggest investment in him or your top chef there. But yeah, I mean, I think each thing was pretty special. The forks especially was great. I feel like he definitely learned a lot from being the fork guy for the week or whatever it was. But yeah, man, it was a pretty good rundown for tonight. Looking at the playoffs, talking food, our own cultures here, what we're all up to in the world of food too. But yeah, we'll be here. We'll be back. Hopefully sometime next week. But if you're still with us, subscribe, like, leave us a review of some kind. Check out our sponsors as well. And guys, you didn't have to pay for this. We're not going to put it on Peacock, so don't have to worry about subscribing to us or our channel with any sort of monetary purpose or anything like that too. So with Wayne, I'm Patrick, signing off for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.